you can feel this when you go and ride outside. And Max, we were recently at the Napa training camp, and we had an amateur athlete who's a lovely guy, Paul from Toronto, and Paul and I were riding next to each other, and we were just cruising along. And we had the group behind us, and as we came over some rollers, I just sat next to Paul and I just said, "Okay, now accelerate, pick up your cadence." Picked it up, said, "Okay, now add a gear. Keep picking up your cadence, add a gear." Building momentum, and then he'd have a little look behind him, and people would be 50 yards up behind. And you know what that is? That's fun. That's fun. It's like, wow, I can actually feel that. No different than if you go out into the ocean and you actually wanna go body surfing, and that first time that you feel that whoosh, that's what it's like. And so it's a real opportunity to go and play with it, and I really like your thought there, Max, of sometimes racing is a great opportunity to apply that and say, "See what happens." Go without a power meter, go and ride the terrain, see whether you ride faster or slower. It might just be that you ride faster and you feel fresher. Who knows?
Yeah.
So that's it. What one more bike, um, story from the pros that's actually because we learn a lot from struggles and failure. So,
Okay.
we talked about Sarah and we talked about Meredith, Sarah Piampiano, Meredith Kessler. There was they actually had a great lesson at Ironman Melbourne the first time, and Ironman Melbourne was a race that was out, back, out, back. So a two loop on the coast bike course, pretty much dead flat. And the year that they both did it, it was very, very windy. So you had this headwind pressing against them on the way out, turned around, tailwind making them fly on the way back. And they both made the same mistake that highlights the consequences of not executing what's under your control, because they came out of the water and they were so consumed by this big headwind that they just got into working, grind, 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 pushing out for give or take 25, 28 miles. They turned around, minimal fueling, minimal hydration, because their focus was on the race and pressing against. And suddenly, woof, they're getting pushed and they're riding 45, 50 kilometers an hour, and they felt great. And the energy cost was less, and they weren't getting signals, and so they turned around and they zipped down, went fast, and they didn't fuel and hydrate much. They made that turn at the halfway point, boom, the lights went out, and they failed, both of them, to do what was under their control. They didn't execute their fueling plan, and in a longer distance race, that's very, very difficult to come back to, because they got into a really steep hydration hole, and they also were underfueled. So they managed to get through the caloric bonk, as they like to
Mhm.
call it, but they never really emerged and didn't run very well. So they went all the way to Australia with a pretty harsh lesson that they applied to the rest of their career. So that's one little lesson, is make sure you take care of the details on the bike as well.
Yeah, I like that. Stay present so you can make good decisions. Don't get caught
Yep.
up in the moment.
Yeah.
Applies to any race, but especially the longer races.
Yeah.
All right, on to the run.
I got two here. I'm gonna bring up the names of a couple of athletes that were really my favorites to coach, and I keep saying that they're all my favorites. I like them all for different reasons, but one of the original purple patch athletes, Matt Lieto. Many people will be very familiar with Matt because he's one of the main commentators on Ironman.com now, a lot of the Ironman races. But I coached Matt before coaching his brother Chris Lieto, who obviously went on to second place at the Hawaii Ironman. And Matt was a good swimmer, front pack swimmer, is a very, very strong bike rider, like his brother Chris, and his run was his weakness. It wasn't as weak as my run. He used to outrun me, but it was still his weakness. And he had a lot of challenges in Ironman racing to to really execute a good run. And this is back in the day, so the performances have really shifted in running. And so when we say these times, remember this is 20 years ago that we're talking, but Matt was running off the bike, not not good pro male run splits. 3:15, 3:17, 3:18. Really, really struggling coming to part in a lot of his running races, really frustrated. Rather than finishing races at third, fourth, fifth place, he was finishing at 13th, 14th, 15th place in Ironman racing. And I encourage Matt to embrace walk breaks, and said, "Look, your challenge is your form is exploding in the back half of races because of mechanical fatigue. Let's come up with a strategy, not a point of weakness, but a strategy to try and offset mechanical fatigue. So you need to walk early and consistently." So we came up with a plan at Ironman Canada to run to walk every single aid station, 25 aid stations, 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds if needed, right from aid station one. And we are going to commit to it just as a test, as you suggest, Max. And he did it. He came off the bike. He was right up there. He was actually running shoulder to shoulder with someone. That athlete, and I can't remember who it was, but that athlete ran through the aid station. Matt walked. The athlete looked at him. Matt gradually built up, went to the second aid station. Matt walked. It carried on. Matt's fastest run splits by mile was split number mile 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 26 was a little slower because he was running down the chute, kissing babies and doing all the things that he liked to do. But he broke 3 hours, and that ended up with a podium finish. So it wasn't a tool of weakness, and I think it really was one of these stories to really lay down the testament of walk breaks are really useful tools for many, many athletes, even up to the elite level. And of course, we now leverage them at all levels of the sport. And that became it takes confidence to do that in many ways to actually integrate walk breaks.
For the listener, can you describe a little bit physiologically what's happening? Why is the walk beneficial? What's allowing? Is that they're just not burning as much energy? They're able to maintain better form. What's happening there with the amateur athlete that's really helping them tap into their potential?
Yeah, it's not really saving energy because you're looking to maximize energy expenditure over the course of the whole race. You just want to go as fast as you can doing it. What it's really doing is it comes down to the root cause of this of what is the biggest limiter in marathon racing off the bike when you've already got multiple hours of fatigue in your legs because you've swum the distance and ridden the distance. The biggest limiter is not cardiovascular fitness. It's mechanical fatigue. It's musculoskeletal. How many athletes have gone through where they look down, they think, I can't even get my heart rate up. My legs just won't behave. So we need to come up with a strategy to try and get in front of that a little bit. And as people, and you've stood on the sidelines, Max, and see this, as people are running in an Ironman, quite often their posture is so poor because of the fatigue that's occurred with the fitness, and they're running with such low economy that the cost, to your point, is radically skyrocketing for every step that they're taking because they've got poor posture, poor rebound, etc. So instead of that, it's better to have walk breaks to give mental and physical periods of restoration so that then when they are running, whether they can run 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 10 minutes, they are running with better form. So we always had this saying, run with the best form you can for as long as you can, as often as you can. And so you break it up with walk breaks. The other part of it then is make sure that you're integrating the walk breaks at a time there that has minimal speed penalty. So do it on uphill grades and at the worst flats, or at time that you can do something useful going through aid stations. So it maximizes the potential that you're actually going to fuel and hydrate possibly
Right.
properly because you're actually going through rather than just chucking it down you. And I see people that do this. You know, we had an athlete that ran 2:34 at the New York Marathon, and he took 6 or 7 walk breaks. This is a tool to get there because he really leveraged it. But it's it's not about how you run in the first 10K or the first 6 miles or so of the marathon. It's can you maintain the same form, the same posture with the best speed possible in the last 10K because that's where all the damage occurs, the back half of the race basically. So that's the spirit behind it.